Here we have the Tier 1 2x6 assembly. So this is standard construction across much of Canada. And what this wall is made of is it's made of 2x6 stud framing. And then the cavities of the cavity of this wall is filled with fiberglass batt insulation R20. And so with this being standard construction across Canada, this is the most common wall that we will see with new builds anyways. And so the construction method of this wall is that usually the walls are built flat on the ground and then they're lifted into place, or they can be prefabbed off-site, delivered to site, and either craned or moved into place with a different type of machinery. And then once they've been moved into place, you continue building. So with this assembly, before we can actually put the walls into place, we have to make sure that there is a seal, whether it's acoustical sealant or some other sort of membrane underneath that plate, to make sure that the air control layer is maintained and continued underneath this wall plate. With this wall assembly, the 6mm poly is the air control layer. So we need to make sure that that air control layer comes down and does go under that wall plate and then can transfer down to maintain the air control layer down below as well. One of the issues with having just a seal or some sort of membrane only under this plate is that inspectors aren't able to see if that seal has been put in place as soon as those walls are up, unless the inspector was on site as the walls were being built and put into place. So one thing that we can do to assist with that is we can actually put a membrane and some sort of sealant underneath this plate, and then that membrane comes out and ties up the wall and then ties into this air control layer poly on the interior here. Then everybody can see that there has actually been a continuous air control layer that transfers underneath that plate. As I said, the 6mm poly is the air control layer with this wall assembly, so we do have to make sure that we're using sealant to make sure that we've sealed all the holes in the framing or any holes that might exist in the poly. And so with that, we've used acoustical sealant with this poly. What needs to happen is that this acoustical sealant has to be installed on solid blocking that will be behind it. That way, when the drywall gets installed, it compresses this acoustical sealant. If this acoustical sealant doesn't get compressed, it can actually end up falling down over time and create holes in our air control layer, therefore making our air control layer less effective. When we get to a point of a window or a door, we still need to maintain that air control layer. A window is part of all 4 control layers. So how we maintain the air control layer with this assembly's installation is we put fiberglass batt insulation in between the rough opening and the windowsill. Then on towards the interior, we put a backer rod, and then we have some caulking here sealing this windowsill to this poly, and on the sides here as well, we've got it on the window jambs, and it will go all the way around the window, and that actually seals the window jamb to the poly, therefore maintaining that air control layer into that window assembly there. When we're sealing the bottom plates, what often happens is this acoustical sealant will be installed right at the bottom of the wall where the wall meets the floor. That can be somewhat ineffective as this acoustical sealant needs to be under compression. So oftentimes the drywall doesn't actually make it all the way to the bottom. So what we want to do is put this acoustical sealant as close to the top of that sill plate as possible, so that when that drywall does get installed, it is hitting here and actually sealing that acoustical sealant there. When we have a penetration in our air control layer in this assembly, which is most electrical boxes to the interior, hood fan or ducting to the interior as well, we need to make sure that we are maintaining an air control or air tightness through that penetration as well. So what we can use, and what is commonly used, is these plastic airtight electrical boxes. And on those boxes, there is a rubber gasket that surrounds it entirely. And when that rubber gasket is compressed, once that drywall is installed, that maintains that airtight layer there. And then on the inside, where we have the wires actually coming through, we might want to put some spray foam in there just to make sure that that box is completely airtight and that airtightness is maintained, because you can see that you punch through there and then there's a little hole there in the air control layer. So